You're listening to the AZREIA Show. If you're looking for quality real estate investing information that you can trust, you've found it. Stay tuned and join the tens of thousands of members that have already benefited from AZREIA, your home for education, market information, support, and networking opportunities that will advance your real estate investing career.
Welcome to the AZREIA Show. My name is Mike Del Prete, Executive Director of the Arizona Real Estate Investors Association. And this is, once again, the AZREIA Show, where we launch every Friday at 8 a.m. on all podcast platforms and YouTube. So check us out. Today, I'm going to jump right in. Here's what you're going to learn. Here's what we're going to talk about. We're speaking. Our special guest is Cynthia Trammell, the mother of multifamily.
Right.
And we're going to talk about transitioning from residential to small multifamily and everything around that and why it's a great thing to do. Because that's, Cynthia, right? It's part of our progress. We want to.
Absolutely.
It's
the next step. It's the next logical step.
Makes so much sense. And people think when they get into real estate, we're jumping right in.
I know. The weapons are done. We got to talk about this.
I was too excited to do the
I know.
We'll let you tell us about yourself. Let's do that. We're going to talk about multifamily and why it's a natural process or progression in our real estate world.
Right.
And Cynthia is one of the best to do it. So tell us about yourself, Cynthia, and then we'll get into all the questions.
Wonderful. Love it. Thank you so much for having me here. This is great. And, I get really excited when we talk about small multifamily because I think it is the next step, especially if you're doing single family and you want to get into multifamily, or if you've been trying to get these 150, 200 unit properties, and it's like, man, this is not working. This is the next step to take. So I'll tell you a little bit how I got started. I was a music director in a church for over like 20 years, right?
Sure.
I was a single mom to triplet boys. They are now 22, but when I got started, they were, 4 or 5 years old when I started, when I got to be the single mom and working at the church. I was working a lot for very little money. And there's a lot of great perks working for the church, right? But making money is not one when you work for the Lord. But I knew that I was creating patterns in my kids of working for somebody else, working all the time, trading time for money. And my kids just kind of worked down that priority list that everything I was giving was to the church. All my time, my energy, everything. And I just knew there had to be something more. In my gut, I knew there had to be something more. So my boyfriend at the time was working at a commercial building. He is a therapist and had an office out there.
Mhm.
The owner came to him and said, I'm going to sell. He came and talked to me because he loved real estate. I knew nothing about real estate. I thought that's what other people did, right? I worked for the church. I was poor. I was like, this is just what other people do. Well, he came to me. This is when your head and your gut get into two different places. And my head went, you know nothing about real estate, just move on. And my gut went, oh, this would be fun. This could be the thing that transforms your life. And my head went, that's a stupid idea. And my gut said, you should call. So I did. I called the seller, ended up taking a liking to me, used my network. And when I come out there, I'm going to be telling this story. So I don't want to give it all away now. But in 45 days, I had keys to that building. And Mike, what I learned is that at the first of the month, like tenants pay you. Like all this money goes into your account, pay your bills. And then at the first of the month, they pay you again. And I was like, this is so cool. So that's when I decided I wanted to get into multifamily and wanted to get into real estate. Again, I knew nothing about it, took the leap, got my education, and I started out looking for those big syndications, right? 100 units, 150 units, because that's what they teach you to do. Scale big, go big. Well, I struggled for like 4 or 5 months. I was like, this is not happening. Stumbled upon a 16 unit. They all laughed. Oh, you can't make money off a 16 unit. Well, I went under contract on it, but now I had no money and I needed to find some money. So what I did was I found somebody who had money and no time. And what I brought was the value to say, you know what, I can asset manage this thing. And that's what we did. I had to raise $250,000 for it. You might as well tell me I had to raise $2 million because $250,000 was something I'd never seen, right? So I got my investor, my angel investor. He came in with me. And we still have that property. And that is the little engine could, that property. It cash flows like crazy. And what I found out is I could have this magical thing called passive income. And it was great. And that's when I learned these little small properties in partnerships, joint ventures, they make some serious cash, especially when you can underwrite them and get them like mom and pops have been running them in these secondary, tertiary markets. And that's how it all started. And I started only buying small multifamily after that. And now we're in it 8-9 years. My portfolio is over $32 million in small multifamily. And ask me how much money I put down on my own, Mike.
How much money did you put down of your own?
None. Zero. None.
Yeah.
I leverage other people's money.
I believe it 100%. We have very,
Right?
I'm excited. Another reason I'm excited, we have very similar stories in the love for small multifamily. And you said a couple cool things during your story. Once I heard, you said instilling patterns into your kids, right? But did you say you had triplets?
I do have triplets, right?
You started with a pattern right there.
Yeah, right. One and done.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
No, you said something, your mind and your gut were seeing two different things.
Absolutely.
So if someone's listening, whether they're brand new, deer in the headlights in real estate, like you were at that time, and or trying to make that step up, that transition, right? Because, multifamily might have more zeros or whatever it may be. So how did you fix that? Or how did you work on that discussion between your gut and your
It's tough because I always believe that follow that intuition. But our minds and our mindsets and the things that we tell ourselves, that's what keeps us down. That keeps those limiting beliefs on top of us. And I just, it was just kind of dumb luck and being about half crazy and a lot of grit, Sometimes you have to step out into the unknown because we like to stay where we are because even if it's miserable, we stay because the unknown is scarier than maybe the misery we're living in at that moment. And I just was kind of sick and tired of being sick and tired. And that's when I had to get my mindset right. And I've worked on that over the years. Mindset about money and having it and what I'm teaching my kids. Because I was teaching my kids that it's okay to just be kind of broke. We just work hard. And now I go back and I'm changing their thinking. I'm changing the patterns I'm teaching them because I had to change my own patterns.
Yeah. And, a lot of people growing up, myself, my environment wasn't people flipping houses and buying and selling houses. So yeah, you do have to go into that uncomfortable situation. You have to take that leap. And I think it's kind of like eventually like riding a bike because it's once you do it, it's scary. Then you go, oh, all right, that wasn't too bad, right? Like, so what are let's talk about like the who, what, where, and why. Like who should be doing this? Who should be going into multifamily?
Everybody.
Love it.
Everybody.
Yep.
It's passive income. And it just makes sense, especially with people that are doing single family right now. Because you might have 10 houses in all these different places. And the great thing about multifamily is you can have 10 tenants under one roof.
Yeah.
So now we're consolidating. It's one property management company. It's one lawn demo. It's one utility bill. You can lose and get a vacancy for 1-2 people and you can still survive. Where if you have a single family home and your tenant moves out, well, you're not making any money now. Where the multifamily, it continues to keep the income coming, even if you have a vacancy. So everybody needs to be doing it.
Yeah. You play Monopoly, right? So, hey, if you're one of those people that do have a handful of single family, you get 1031, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So there's ways to do this. You just got to be around the people that are doing it.
Right. I want to go back to you asked about that mindset piece. And I want to explain what you're saying. It's accountability with a mentor. You don't reinvent the wheel. Find somebody who's doing it and latch on, go with them. Do that. Find that mentor, find somebody who's going to hold you accountable because that is the secret sauce. It really is. Because if you're just trying to switch over, you don't know anything about it, you'll get discouraged and it's easy to step back. But that's why you're so important in your role to be a mentor for people that want to do that with your experience.
And it's like, how do you say this? Like when you're new or you're just trying to go into trying to learn, you always see these courses, programs, mentors, and everyone's always offering something. You never know if that person's real or whatever it is. And I
Right.
always, when I first, took over as REIA, I was always nervous to like talk about mentorship or sell something. But then I'm like, let me look at my own life. I literally got into the business because of a mentor. I wouldn't have done 30 wholesale deals my first year if a gentleman didn't take me under his wing and coach me. Like I split deals. That was my mentorship, right? It doesn't have to be
Okay.
right? Like
That's okay.
I would still be 30 deals my first year. I would have still been kicking the can down the road if I didn't do that.
Yeah.
It changed my
The
life.
greatest success stories have mentorship. Have somebody there that's guiding you along the way to help prevent you from making mistakes. I mean, you were talking about riding the bike. Yes. He's like, yeah, I can ride that bike. Are you going to fall off? Are you going to hit a curb? Absolutely. Same with real estate. It doesn't matter what kind of real estate you're in. You're going to have some failures, but the thing is, you don't want them to be fatal failures, right? You want them to be fixable failures. And that's where a mentor can help you, guide through some of the obstacles that you might come up against.
Of course. And when you're going through these experiences and being comfortable, being uncomfortable, like you get better, right? Like I think like all the failures I've been through make you stronger and make you
Absolutely.
not mess up again unless you want to repeat the same thing. But
You're exactly right. I mean, the failures are part of it because that is how you learn. That's how you grow.
So for going back to like the who, so it doesn't matter. Like you said, everyone can do this, right? So jump in. I remember I owned a hair salon with my wife and we rented obviously a space in a strip plaza. And the owner was a mover and shaker around town buying, selling buildings and stuff. And he's always stressed out, man. Like every time I see him, there's like, cause it's owning a commercial building and several of them is pretty intense. I was like, what would you do different being a commercial investor for all these years? He was like, Mike, I would just go around town and just buy up those 2 duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes. I would have never done. He was like, I would have never done.
Really?
Yeah. I was like, I'm very interested. I did not expect that,
Yeah. That surprised me. But you're right. I mean, our 16 door that we have, it's 4 quads. And then our second property was 16 doors too. We had a thing for 16 doors when we got started. And it was 8 duplexes. Class A, 8 duplexes. Now here's the crazy thing. It was in a town of like 3,000 people on a good day. Total,
Okay.
but it was
That
like
could be nerve-wracking. That could be scary.
yeah. But it was 20 minutes away from Fort Smith, Arkansas. And the great thing about it, there was a casino a half a mile down the road. How many people? A huge casino. How many employees are there, right? That these little towns, there's not a ton of rental houses or housing or apartments. We were one of 2, and we were the Class A. We were newly built, full all the time, 100% full.
So you built some fourplexes in a small town?
It was already built.
Oh,
it was already, it was a pretty brand new apartment, and the developer had sold it. And so we went in there and scooped that thing up. Hardly ever if we had a vacancy, not for long. We turned that thing so fast. So these little towns, people think, oh, I've got to be in, Phoenix. I got to be in Dallas, Fort Worth. And you're not going to get anything to underwrite there in small properties. You're just not. They're just too expensive. You've got to go out to those secondary markets and the tertiary markets and the quaternary markets or quaternary. I forget how you say it.
Wow,
Anyway,
I never even heard that one.
I know. My demographer taught me that word. So I have a guy that knows all these markets. He's a genius. And so so we love.
Let's touch on that because that's a big thing here in the Phoenix area, Arizona. We're rapidly growing, right? Growth, population growth, job growth which are most important to our business. It's just happening. And, and things don't pencil here in Phoenix. I'm saying you can find a deal, right? If you write enough offers, but I like what you're saying. So you're saying go into, sub-markets, tertiary markets. So first explain what those are.
Okay.
What are those?
Okay. So the secondary markets, when you look at quote, the emerging markets, right? Your big cities, you're going to go out to like the suburbs of the suburbs. You're going out probably 25 miles to the next round of, still in the MSA, the statistical area, right, that feeds these big towns. But then you even go out further. We're looking in towns. I think the biggest city we're in has 80,000 people.
Okay.
I mean, these are smaller places, 50,000. And when you get talking about syndications and big educators are like, you don't look anywhere unless it's got like 500,000 people. But that's if you're trying to fill up 100 units. We're just trying to fill up 16. So it's okay with these little small properties. We have a 30 unit in a town of 3,500 people.
Wow.
And it stays full because but the tricky part is you got to make sure that town is a growing town. It's got a Chick-fil-A. It's got a super Walmart. It is outside of a Tulsa MSA. So you still have to look at where you're buying. You don't want to buy in 3,500 people that it's a ghost town.
Mm-hmm.
You want to make sure it has some vital businesses that are going to have employees that are probably renters. And they're going to be renting in your apartment complex.
And you just made me decide what I'm having for lunch, because when you said Chick-fil-A, I'm going, sorry.
I know. I got you right before lunch. It's like, oh, Chick-fil-A sounds amazing, right?
So for my Arizona listeners, so what Cynthia's saying is just kind of give perspective. Like when I first started, Phoenix was like the market, and the submarkets were like Mesa, and so on. But now it's Maricopa County. It's big, right? And if you want to go to the secondary markets, I'm saying maybe like Apache Junction. Let's go down to even, Casa Grande, those type of towns. And then, or Prescott, if you're going north.
Yes, Prescott, Payson, go up, right up that highway, and you're going to find those little towns.
Yeah. And then if you want to go tertiary, a little smaller, we're talking Benson, Bisbee, Gallus, all these small places. And, I had a buddy years ago who went down to, he was Benson, no, Douglas. Oh my God. I think they have 5,000 people. And he bought a 20-unit building. This was like 10 years ago on a seller carryback. That's another game, right? Like you can get better a seller carries and sub twos in these smaller markets. Is that, do you find that to be true?
Absolutely. There's more room for that creative financing versus the 100 doors. And that's one of the things about your community, Mike, is that language they know. That's what I try to say. People that are in the REIAs and are doing the single family, you have 70% of what it takes already. You already know all this language and how to find the deals and how to negotiate the deals. We're just talking a little different model. It's just a different vehicle.
Yeah, it's so true. So yeah, and why I'm excited, and again, I'm always excited, but I mean, with real estate, it's like the population growth here in Phoenix, right? We have 900,000 people have moved to Arizona over the last 15 years, right? In Maricopa County area, the TSMC, the chip plants, it's all here. It's all coming and growing. But what's happening is we're having an affordability issue. So people are moving to the outskirts, which helps your model here of looking at the smaller towns. I think that's a play for if you wanted to keep it to Arizona. And we have the market updates for that. But you look in different states too. Is there anything, is that what you do?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I always tell people first, look in your own backyard.
Okay.
Arizona's a great backyard. I mean, there's a lot going on in Arizona, but sometimes things don't pencil out. It's okay to go look at somebody else's backyard. It's okay to cross the border. We're in 4 states. The closest property I have to be is 5 hours away.
Okay.
We're all in the Midwest and southern states. You want to be in landlord-friendly states, though. Just make sure you know that, right? Everybody out there listening, landlord-friendly states.
Is there like, because sometimes I don't feel they're all equal. Is there anything, a criteria that you would look for in a landlord-friendly state?
Just to make sure that the laws are on the side of the landlord. So if you do get that tenant who doesn't pay, you can get them out. And that's, so you got to find the state that does that. And it is divided a little bit by red and blue states. You'll find, red states have better landlord laws versus blue states. But not all blue states, like you said, are created equally. There's a lot of areas in blue states that have better landlord laws than other parts of it. So you just have to know. So if you're going to look up north, you just have to know your laws.
And that's what's great about being a part of the REIA. Like, so there's a national REIA. So we're the licensed REIA in the state of Arizona. But if you go to nationalrea.org, you can say, find my REIA. So if you're looking in different markets, then you link up with someone like our association in that market. And then you're dealing with a trusted resource to find the stats and the population and the rules.
Mike, it's so much about this business is relationships. And that's why your REIA is so great, because you have the relationships built in. Like you're saying, if you want to go look at another place, you've got the resources with the national REIA to go do that. It's because it's all about relationships. It's relationships and finding your broker, finding a property management company. You want to talk to other people that are doing it. Hey, who are you using? And some management companies that are third party, they're managing single family homes. So you might find somebody who says, yeah, I can do 16 units on top of that. Building those relationships with them and finding your investors. People have money.
Who's some of the most important people on your multifamily team?
Property managers, the number one key, because you have to manage the manager, right? They can make or break your deal, because again, even the best property managers, they're not the owner. They don't think like the owner. They're going to think like a property management company. Yeah. So it's your job to think like the owner. You have a business plan. And you've got to make sure that they put it into place and run it well. And if they don't, you got to let them go.
And so when it comes to like, whether even it's your own backyard or another state, right? So I did, when things started not to pencil here in Phoenix, I went to Cleveland, Ohio. And that's why I was like kind of on the red state question, right? Because I was like, oh, it's a red state, but Cleveland didn't treat me like a red state. so
really?
Yeah. So meaning, but ultimately I chalk up out of state investing. It's no different than investing in your own backyard. You're just on the phone.
You're right. Yep. Look what we're doing here, right? Everything, especially since COVID, is so virtual. We book times with our property managers to say, okay, when are you going out on site? Because these small deals, you don't usually have a staff out there. They're not sitting out there in an office. So we just say, hey, get on your phone and take us on a little trip. They walk us around the property on a Zoom call. They zoom in on things they want to show us, things we need to look at. It's great. So there's ways. You don't have to travel. You don't have to be boots on the ground all the time. You can go visit it once, twice a year, go see the property, because you do want to put, your eyes on it. But you can also Zoom it, have your property manager once a month, just take you on a little walk.
There you go. And I remember my contractors, they had a feature or an app called Company Cam.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And it's like every day look up Company Cam. It's like, so every day they took pictures of the entire house. So I would just log in the Company Cam and I'm just like, you see the progress every day. That's pretty cool. So there's all these.
Yeah, that's so great. One of the first things we do on these small properties is we put up security cameras. And the security cameras, where do they come through? On your phone. Yeah. So, and on the weekends, get you some popcorn, just soda or a glass of wine, and sit there on your cameras and watch what's happening on your property, because you don't have anybody out there. So who's the owner? You are. You've got to be responsible and take accountability for what's happening on your property. And I tell you, if you just Friday night, 9, 10 o'clock, throw your cameras on, watch what's happening. What are your tenants doing? What are people driving by doing? It's a great way to keep an eye on your property.
Cool. All right. So what about finding these properties? Is there anything different when it comes to finding multifamily, or what are some things that work for you?
Yeah, with these small properties, with multifamily, you're usually going to go through a broker. You're going to find these brokerage firms, and some of the brokerage firms, they're all big syndication deals. But this is where you're going to go out on like Crexi.com. It's CREXI.com. Go out there. Deals are not going to underwrite, but you're going to go out there and find your brokers. That's what you're going to do. You're going to find the brokers that are listing small multifamily, because a lot of times it's the newer brokers that are listing those. Your more experienced brokers, they're doing the syndications and they're not marketing. They're not putting stuff out there. They're going to their, buyers that they know are going to close. But New brokers are usually listing these smaller properties, and then it's building that relationship with them. You got to build that relationship. And then property managers, I'll say again, because they're all brokers too. And they know, I don't know if you ever watched Bewitched back in the day. I always say, the lady across the street, Gladys, who's like constantly looking through the window, that's property managers. They know where all the bodies are buried because they know what investors are fighting. They know who's selling. They know who's wanting to buy. And they know the status of that property. And then they can sell it to you. So you can bypass the brokers and go right to property managers.
I like
That's
that.
the secret right there, those people. We've
It
bought
is.
half our stuff from property managers.
And it's like, yeah, right. The property manager works for all the investors, right? And yeah, so true. And even at some level, like even maybe on the bigger buildings, but um, the brokers, like the average building owner is a little bit more savvy than the motivated single family homeowner that has one house the entire life, right? So
Right.
so they have those clients. Makes sense. Okay, so
Right.
so
Right.
that was a good tip on finding them. What about running numbers? Is there anything what kind of numbers are you looking for, or how are you comping these properties? What do you do?
Yeah. So I actually have my own underwriting program that for my students because underwriting is the foundation. But what I teach is that we have to stop underwriting to hit like a number. You know, it's always like, oh, it's got to be, 10% cash on cash the first year, and you got to hit this, that, and the other. Yes, you have to know those numbers, but when you're underwriting, you're underwriting for past that. What's the business plan going to look like? How am I going to operate this deal? Because that's where the money comes from. A lot of times investors, they buy something. Hey, we bought something. We're super excited, super excited. And then we forget to run it. So when you underwrite, you have to underwrite with a clear picture of how am I going to operate this? Am I going to have to renovate? Do I have enough CapEx? Are my property taxes going to go up? The answer is always yes. Is my insurance going to go up? Oh, wait, that answer is yes too. So
And
you got to think about what is the market doing and how much are these things going to go up year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, until the time you're going to sell it. So when you underwrite, because we talk about this, like the most frustrating things, man, just stop penciling out. And there's a lot that are not going to pencil out. Can we be creative though? What if I did this instead of that? What if I don't renovate as many? What if I just prepare for, a couple of HVACs going out? I'm going to raise some money for that. How can you look at it as a business and say, can I lower down my expenses? Okay, the seller's doing this. I'm not going to do that. I've got a connection through REIA that I have a landscaper in that town that I know I can get instead of $500 a month, $300 a month. Now we know we can lower our expenses down. So once you start thinking about it like a business owner and we stop just underwriting by plugging in numbers all the time, you'll think differently about underwriting. And that's the key.
it is key because, yeah, and you said you hit some important topics. The forecasting of expenses going up, rents going up, all that math you truly need to understand because it's always on the buy, right? We're not,
Always on the buy.
even though there's appreciation and equity buildup and everything, you got to underrate the property. We're in this
Yes.
to make money.
To make the right offer. And it's just going to make offers.
Yeah.
Even if they're stupid offers, even if they're just like, I had a broker on one of my classes the other day and we asked about that. Like, do brokers get offended by lowball offers? He said back in the day when we were in a seller's market, yeah, they might not take you too seriously. But now we're in a buyer's market. Sellers are asking for too much. They're asking for retail. And when you pay retail, you're not going to make any money. The cash on cash is just too low. There's just hardly any room there. So sellers are having to change their thinking. They're having to lower their expectation down a little bit on what they're going to get for that property. And the broker, the only way they can educate them is for, buyers to put in low offers to say, this is what makes sense. And then let the broker take it from there because then they can educate the seller to say, this may be the best offer you're going to get. You need to take this. So put in offers.
But in those
Put
offers.
Yeah.
And I guess and even if sometimes if you're nervous to put in that offer, here's how I look at it. Like if you're looking at a broker, right? They have their pro formas, right? And everyone's a salesperson. So one, you have to be responsible for your business and your life, right? So you can't give them what they want, right?
No.
they're trying to sell you on why you should pay more. Right? Like, don't fall for that. Like, you need to
Yeah.
get close to their number because that's what they want. Like, no,
We
they're gonna make
never
you
buy on pro forma, right?
yeah.
Ever.
Yes. Why? Tell us what that is and why we shouldn't.
Right. So the performance is what the broker believes can happen the first year. Here's the seller's numbers, but here's what we believe. And I'm like, but y'all don't own multifamily. You're a broker. You're there to sell the building. So of course you're going to come up and be like, you can raise rents like this much. And no, as an investor, you have to be the one to say, this is reasonable. This is a reasonable rent increase. This is a reasonable, I've gone round and round with brokers about insurance. When they started going up, this one broker, he was just like, no, it's not. We can get insurance for $500 a door. I'm like, no, you can't. He's like, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, I so know what I'm talking about. You don't know what you're talking about. And he and I went back and forth. He came back about 6 months later. Was like, okay, so now it's like $800 a door. I'm like, told you. So you are the investor. You are the expert. Brokers are there to sell properties.
So true. It's like, that's a good one too. It's like, they sometimes they can be persuasive. Like, oh, this, what, in a year from now, this company's going to be here. They want you to buy tomorrow. Right. And I'm like, no, I'm buying what you've been doing the last 12 months. You know what I'm saying?
That's exactly. And here's the hardest part right now is lenders. Lenders are not going to lend you money on a pro forma. Lenders are barely wanting to lend you money on what they've been doing the last 12 months. They are really getting sticklers about lending money, and they're getting tight with their money because they're going to go in and underwrite it. So if you underwrite it and give this crazy asking price, the lender's going to say, we're never going to lend to you because you're not going to hit that nut. You're not going to make that cash on it.
Well, that's what
And they won't take the risk.
And so that, again, opens up to what we were talking about before, seller carryback, or an owner willing to provide some financing or some leverage if banks tie you up. So that's a huge opportunity.
Exactly.
And you said something a couple times also, like in the beginning, you're like, I'll call back in a month, or 6 months later, he called me. So it sounds like the fortune in the follow-up world. So how often do you notice
relationships?
The deals
it's
happen?
All relationships.
Yeah.
It's happening. Yeah, it's happening all the time right now. And you and I have had this conversation about a lot of these deals. They were bought back in, 2020, 2021, when you were getting interest rates for like 3% on these commercial deals. And then what happened? A few years later, interest rates went. Psh. And so people that their maturity, their loan dates are coming up. They maybe had a 5-year or 7-year balloon payment. They got there, and now their interest rate has almost tripled. And when it did, they couldn't do it anymore. And insurance, pick a state, insurance is just doubling everywhere. So then you get hit with a doubling insurance premium. Now the seller has no choice but to sell. They have to.
Yeah.
And so that is where we're picking up so many properties right now. And a lot of them are being sold under what they had been bought for 4 years ago. So the market's changing.
Like a foreclosure in the multifamily world at all? Foreclosure market? Yeah. Okay.
We just closed on a 58 unit we bought from the bank.
Wow. What
Class
state?
A. They just
Wow.
they went belly up. Bank took it back, and then we bought it for just pennies on the dollar. Class A. And we usually don't buy Class A. We're usually in Class B and C's because there's just more headroom there to do some value add work, raise rents. So, but yeah, we got into this thing just pennies on the dollar.
Wow.
So yeah, talking to banks, but property managers know what properties are getting taken back that the bank owns.
That's true.
So again, property managers are a great resource.
So you're coming out here for a monthly meeting, which is on the second Monday of every month at Venue 8600 here in Scottsdale. So September 14th, Monday night, you'll be here giving us like an hour presentation. Then you're going to come down to Tucson September 15th with us. And then you're going to hang out with us all day on Saturday, September 19th, and go more detail workshop, so to speak. So
yes.
Can you kind of give us an idea what you're going over, what you're going to be covering on the monthly meeting and the workshop?
Yeah. So the monthly meeting is going to be a snapshot of the mother of multifamily, because, I use that because of my kids, right? I was the mother of them, raising them up. And like we said, talking about changing patterns. My communities, my relationships that I build, helping people buy multifamily, it is a relationship. And I want the best in everybody. And I see that. And I want to raise people up to the best of their ability. And I know this is something that anybody can do. You just need somebody who can show you the vehicle to get there. And that's me. And so for those meetings, I'm going to come in and talk to you about of course, I would have a mom strategy, right? But it's a bit of the mindset side of it. Operations, where the profit's going to be made, and then mentorship. This is not a solo sport. We need teams. We need teams with each other. Just you and me, Mike. We and sharing our stories. Man, this is a great relationship because it takes a team of people to accomplish our goals and our dreams. So that's going to be the meeting where we talk about going from single family to multifamily and building up your legacy. And then on that Saturday, we're going to take it deeper with Multifamily Made Easy. I want to show you that it's not rocket science, but 96% of people, and I use that number, could be a little higher, will never do a deal. They'll never make an offer because they can't get past here. They will tell themselves all the reasons why. So on Saturday, I'm going to talk to you all about how to do it, that it really is easy. You just have to follow some steps, and that 70% is already done. Most everybody coming out of single family, you already have 70% of the skills to be successful. And I'm going to show you just how you can do it on that Saturday.
Exciting. And
It's going to be fun.
It is going to be fun. And the September 19th is going to be here in the Central Phoenix office here at the AZREIA headquarters. So make sure to go to AZREIA.org/calendar and to see what events we have, and make sure you pre-register in advance for these meetings. All right. Is there any last words of wisdom or anything you want to share with the listeners?
No, I'm just, if I can do it, coming from my history, single mom. I mean, I was making like $50,000 a year at my church, working 7 days a week. If I can do it, if I can leave, if I can take that jump and leap of faith to be successful in this, I always say, if you have the courage to begin, you have the courage to succeed. And if I can do it, anybody can do it. And I just want to show you the vehicle and the techniques to do it. And everybody can be doing it. So I'm crazy excited about coming out to Arizona. I love Arizona. Okay, not letting you know temperatures right now, but maybe we could cool things down just a little bit. And I'm from Texas, and I'm saying that.
Yeah, September, it might get a little bit cooler, not much, but better, definitely better than right now. So, well, thank you, Cynthia, for being on the show. Again, she'll be out here September 14th, 15th, and 19th, AZREIA.org/calendar. Also, I wrote an email series, a 12-step email series for you listeners and everyone out there wanting to get involved in real estate. 12 essential steps to becoming a real estate investor. So go to AZREIA.org/12 steps. I will personally email you 12 days in a row. I'll encourage you to respond. I will personally respond to you. And once again, I'm just trying to build a relationship, right? So
absolutely.
Right. So thanks for listening to the AZREIA Show. Cynthia, I will see you next month.
Can't wait. Thanks, Mike, so much for having me.
Passive, really, I think this massive. Stable cash flow, lavish. All the finance for the masses. This 14% in manufactured housing. Really, all the deals I be doing is kinda hard to keep on counting. Not really. 10% for the year. It's clear this the new way. Little competition in my arena. Need a house cost arena strategy.
For 10 to 14% returns, invest today with Silvercrest Opportunity Fund.
10% passive, the checks I blind on with collateral.
Thanks for listening to the AZREIA Show with your hosts, Marcus Maloney and Mike Del Prete. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you found this information valuable, head over to AZREIA.org and learn more about our community.